With the prophet's career summarized and his attributes documented, it's time we take a final look at the man who mirrored his character and his mission. Only miles and years distinguished Hitler from his mentor. The Führer's methods for accomplishing his madness were identical to the prophet's. We read this in Mein Kampf 676. Spiritual terror. Men must threaten and dominate men by compulsion. Compulsion is only broken by compulsion, and terror broken by terror. On the road to power, compulsion follows seduction, and the lever that coerces compulsion is terror. Hitler simply followed Muhammad's path.
Bukhari, Allah's apostle said, "I have been made victorious with terror."
Mein Kampf 677. Since our view of life will never share power with another, it cannot cooperate with the existing doctrines it condemns. It is obliged to fight for all available means until the entire world of hostile ideas collapses. Throughout the entirety of the Islamic era, we have heard a singular battle cry.
Bukhari, our prophet, the messenger of our Lord, ordered us to fight you until you worship Allah alone.
Both men envisioned an everlasting battle and total submission. Mein Kampf 677. This corrosive fight for the new program and for the new view of life demands determined fighters and a forceful fighting organization. The recipe for a favorable result requires the formulation of a declaration of war against all existing orders and against all existing conceptions of life in general. Just like Islam, it was the Nazis against the world. The House of Islam forever battles the House of War.
Tabari, he who believes in Allah and His Messenger has protected his life and possessions from us. As for those who disbelieve, we will fight them forever in the cause of Allah. Killing them is a small matter to us.
The Nazis usurped Muhammad's dogma. The recipe of submit and obey was perfect for empowering their tyrant. Mein Kampf 679. The strength of a party lies in the disciplined obedience of the members to follow their leadership. The decisive factors are leadership and discipline. When troops battle one another, the victorious one will be that which is blindly obedient to the superior leader. Islam says,
Ishaq, the best men launch spears as if they were swords. They peer forward unweariedly. They devote their lives to the Prophet. In hand-to-hand fighting and cavalry attacks, they purify themselves with the blood of the infidels. They consider that an act of piety.
It's hard to distinguish which religious doctrine was more fixated on violence. Mein Kampf 680. In order to lead a view of life to victory, we have to transform it into a fighting movement.
Ishaq, our onslaught will not be a weak, faltering affair. We shall fight as long as we live. We will fight until you turn to Islam, humbly seeking refuge. We will fight not caring whom we meet. We will fight whether we destroy ancient holdings or newly gotten gains. We have cut off every opponent's nose and ears with our swords. We have driven them violently before us at the command of Allah and Islam. We will fight until our religion is established, and we will plunder them, for they must suffer disgrace.
Like Muhammad, Hitler seduced men before he coerced them. He made promises, but he never delivered. Mein Kampf 683. The party with its program of 25 points is unshakable. 10 of the 25 Nazi pillars were financial inducements, bribes if you will. 12 were control mechanisms. 3 were focused on fighting. The following Islamic concepts made Hitler's list in Mein Kampf: abrogation, duty, annulment of treaties, the confiscation of war booty, profit sharing or distribution of spoils, the party's cut or fifth, conquest, expulsion of non-believers, alms or pensions for believers, Jewish businesses to be looted and divided, Jewish land to become communal, and a ban on Jewish usury, along with Jews to be punished by death, the establishment of laws of the Führer, the formation of an army, restrictions on journalists, and a recasting of Christianity. Apart from time and place, the Führer's list was an awful lot like the prophets. Both men were serious about their personal views. It was their way or the highway. Mein Kampf 698. The NSGWP must not become a bailiff of public opinion, but its ruler. It must not be the masses' slave, but their master. Muhammad wasn't much of a listener either.
Quran 47:21. Were they to obey, showing their obedience in modest speech, after the manner of preparation for jihad had been determined for them, it would have been better.
If the definition of propaganda is artful deceit, Hitler and Muhammad were grand masters. Mein Kampf 701. On behalf of our view of life, I will strike the weapon of reply from the enemy's hand personally. And how might the Führer accomplish this? Mein Kampf 702. Skillful propaganda. The best proof of this was furnished by the success of the propaganda introduced by me against the peace treaty of Versailles. I had before me a surging crowd filled with most sacred indignation and utter wrath. A great lie had been torn out of the brains and hearts of a multitude, and in its stead truth had been implanted. In this meeting I became familiar with the pathos and gestures which mesmerize 1,000 people's demands. Islam and Nazism share an unhealthy trait, the willingness to link sacred to wrath. And neither can be trusted, as they are willing to abrogate treaties which they don't like.
Quran 9 verse 3. And a declaration from Allah and His Messenger to all mankind. Allah is free from all treaty obligations with non-Muslims, and so is His Messenger.
Confirming the role of seductive verbal expression in achieving victory, the Führer shared. Mein Kampf 704. The emphasis was put on the spoken word, because only it is in a position to bring about great changes for general psychological reasons. Enormous world revolutionary events have not been brought about by the written word, but by the spoken word. 704. The agitatory activity of speech is bound to have mass influence. Hitler went on to say that spoken words were like pictures, because they communicate more vividly and faster than text. His mentor never allowed his words to be written or read either, only spoken. And that's because...
Bukhari. Allah's apostle said, some eloquent speech is as effective as magic. Also in Bukhari, the prophet said, I have been given the keys of eloquent speech, and given victory with terror, so the treasures of the earth were given to me.
Expounding upon the merits of Muhammad's situational scriptures, the Führer said, Mein Kampf 706, the great speaker senses the words that he needs to use in order to impassion his audience. If he errs, he has the opportunity for correction. He can read his listeners' expressions to see if they understand, and he can repeat his message until he has convinced them of the correctness of what he has said. This reminds me of the 8th Surah, in which Muhammad changed his presentation of the power of Islamic terror on the fly. When his militants appeared displeased with Allah's proclamation, Muhammad corrected the error and lessened the odds.
Ishaq. Abdullah told me that when this verse came down, it was a shock to the Muslims, who took it hard. They were afraid, as the odds were too great. So Allah relieved them and canceled the verse with another. Now has Allah relieved you, and He knows that there is a weakness among you. So if there are 100,
rather than the original 20,
they shall vanquish 200.
The 66th verse corrected the 65th. Instant abrogation. Just add grumbling.